Prologue. The bouquet hit my chest before I even realized it was coming toward me. 1 second, I was standing near the back of a laughing crowd of women, clapping for my best friend Sarah as she turned around on the dance floor. The next, white roses and pale pink peonies were pressed against my hands, their satin ribbons sliding over my wrists. Everyone cheered. Someone shouted, "Debra's next." I laughed because that was what I was supposed to do. I lifted the flowers over my head, and for one warm, foolish heartbeat, I let myself believe the moment meant something. Then I looked at Adam. My boyfriend of 6 years was standing beside the bar with a glass in his hand. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't clapping. He looked as if someone had just read his sentence in a courtroom. His face went pale. His shoulders tightened. His eyes moved from the bouquet to me and then quickly away. When he finally came over, he did not kiss me. He did not wrap an arm around my waist and joke that our friends had finally forced his hand. He leaned close and said, "You know that stuff doesn't mean anything, right?" I stared at him. "What stuff?" "The bouquet thing. It's just a silly tradition." He gave a short laugh that sounded rehearsed. "You don't actually believe you're going to be the next one married because you caught some flowers." I had not said that I believed anything. I had not asked him for a ring. But the fear in his voice told me that, somewhere inside him, he thought I had. That was the moment a thin crack opened through the life I thought we had built together. I did not know yet how wide it would become. I did not know that, before the night was over, I would hear the man I loved explain to his friends exactly why he had never intended to marry me. I did not know he would call me comfortable, convenient, temporarily attractive. I did not know he had measured my value against salaries, family money, business connections, youth, and fertility, and decided I was useful enough to live with, but not valuable enough to choose. All I knew was that I was holding a bride's bouquet, and the man beside me looked trapped. By the next morning, I would be gone. And for the first time in 6 years, Adam would discover what his comfortable life looked like without me in it. Chapter 1. For 6 years, Adam had given me the same answer. Someday we would get married. Someday we would buy a place instead of renting. Someday we would talk seriously about children. Someday, when work settled down, when money felt safer, when life became less complicated, we would turn the future we discussed in bed into something real. At first, someday sounded romantic. We met when I was 29 at a birthday dinner for a mutual friend. Adam was charming without seeming like he was trying. He remembered small details. He made me laugh. When I mentioned that I loved old bookstores, he found one across town and took me there on our 3rd date. When my car battery died in a grocery store parking lot, he showed up before roadside assistance did, holding coffee and wearing sweatpants under his winter coat. He made me feel chosen. After a year together, we moved into a rented 2-bedroom townhouse outside Columbus, Ohio. The neighborhood was quiet, the commute was manageable, and the kitchen had a wide window over the sink. I filled the sill with basil and rosemary. Adam installed shelves in the living room and complained cheerfully the entire time. We bought a couch together, then a dining table, then a mattress that cost more than either of us thought a mattress should cost. Little by little, our separate lives became one. I worked as an operations coordinator for a nonprofit that ran after-school programs. The pay was decent, not spectacular, but I liked the work. Adam was an account manager for a regional software company. He earned more than I did, though his commissions changed from quarter to quarter. We divided our shared expenses proportionally and transferred money every month into a household account that covered rent, utilities, groceries, insurance, and repairs. We were not struggling. We were not wealthy. We were ordinary. I thought ordinary was beautiful. I loved Sunday mornings when Adam made pancakes while I read at the kitchen island. I loved the way he always turned the porch light on if I worked late. I loved our ridiculous arguments about the thermostat and the fact that he could never remember where we kept the extra batteries. I loved the life between major events, the boring, soft fabric of being known. And because I loved that life, I did not push hard when the years passed. Our first close friends got engaged when Adam and I had been together for 2 years. At their wedding, he squeezed my hand during the vows and whispered, "Ours will be better." At year 3, when my younger cousin asked whether we were getting married, Adam smiled and said, "We're not in a rush." At year 4, I told him I needed to know whether marriage was genuinely part of his plan. He looked hurt that I would question him. "Of course it is," he said. "I love you, I love our life. Why would I be here if I didn't see a future?" It was a good question, and because I trusted him, I accepted it as an answer. At year 5, we went to 3 weddings in one summer. I watched women I had known as single friends become wives. I watched their partners look at them as if commitment was not a trap but a privilege. Each time, I felt a quiet ache, not jealousy exactly, but longing. When I brought it up, Adam kissed my forehead. "We'll get there," he said. "I don't want to do it because everyone else is doing it. I want it to be right." That sounded mature, thoughtful, responsible. I did not understand that right had no definition, because he never intended to arrive there with me. By the time Sarah's wedding came around, I was 35. Adam was 37. We had lived together for 5 years. Most of our friends were married, and several had children. My mother had stopped asking when it would be our turn because she saw the tension it caused. Even I had trained myself not to ask directly. I told myself that a ring did not create love. I told myself that our shared routines mattered more than a ceremony. I told myself that patience was not the same as self-abandonment. But sometimes, late at night, I would look at the man sleeping beside me and wonder why the future always seemed close enough to discuss, but too far away to touch. I wondered whether I was being understanding, or whether I was slowly teaching him that he could keep all the benefits of a committed life without ever fully committing to me. Still, I did not believe Adam was cruel. I believed he was cautious. That illusion survived until the bouquet landed in my hands. Chapter 2. Sarah had been my friend since college, and her wedding was exactly like her. Warm, slightly chaotic, and full of people who loved her. She married Daniel at a restored brick warehouse near downtown, with tall windows, strings of lights, and enough flowers to make the room smell like a garden. I had spent the morning in the bridal suite helping her into her dress, fastening tiny buttons down her back while she tried not to cry. "You're next," she said, meeting my eyes in the mirror. I groaned. "Not today, today is about you." "I'm serious." She turned carefully, gathering the front of her dress. "You and Adam have been together forever." 6 years is not forever. It's long enough to know. I smiled, but something inside me tightened. He says he knows. Sarah's expression softened. "Do you?" Before I could answer, one of the bridesmaids rushed in looking for the missing earrings, and the moment passed. The ceremony was beautiful. Daniel cried before Sarah reached the altar. He tried to hide it, but everyone saw. When he said his vows, his voice shook. I looked at Adam beside me, wondering whether he imagined us standing there someday. He caught me looking and smiled. At least, I thought it was a smile. During dinner, we sat with our usual group, Marcus and Jenna, Eric and Maya, and Chris and Lily. The men had known Adam since their 20s. The women had become my friends through years of birthdays, cookouts, holiday parties, and weekend trips. We were at the stage of friendship where nobody knocked before entering a kitchen, and everyone knew who hated cilantro. The evening felt easy. Adam was attentive. He brought me wine, rested his hand on the back of my chair, and leaned over to whisper comments during the speeches. If there had been any sign that he saw me as temporary, I could not find it. That is one of the hardest things about betrayal. It does not always arrive wearing a disguise. Sometimes it eats dinner beside you, passes you the bread, and asks whether you are cold. After the first dances, the DJ called all the unmarried women to the floor for the bouquet toss. I tried to stay at the table. Sarah pointed directly at me. "Debra, get up here." People laughed and clapped. Adam gave me a small push at the waist. "Go," he said. "She'll never let it go if you don't." I joined the group, but stood near the back, half hidden behind 2 of Sarah's cousins. I had no plan to catch anything. I was not going to dive for flowers or turn the moment into an announcement about my relationship. Sarah faced away from us, counted to 3, and threw the bouquet high over her shoulder. It arced above the women in front, missed a raised hand, and came straight toward me. Instinct took over. I caught it against my chest. The room erupted. Sarah spun around and screamed. Jenna hugged me from the side. Someone started chanting, "Adam, Adam, Adam." I was embarrassed, amused, and unexpectedly emotional. Not because I thought flowers had magical power, but because everyone around us saw what I had been trying not to admit. After 6 years, it was reasonable to wonder whether we were next. I searched for Adam. He stood near the bar, frozen. His expression did not match the room. His jaw was tight. His eyes were flat with alarm. When our gazes met, he immediately looked away. A chill moved through me despite the heat of the crowded dance floor. Jenna followed my stare. "What's wrong with him?" "Nothing," I said automatically. It was the answer I had been giving for years. Nothing was wrong. Adam just needed time. Adam hated being pressured. Adam believed marriage was a serious decision. Adam loved me in his own way. He came over after the music changed. His smile looked pasted onto his face. "Congratulations," I said lightly, lifting the bouquet between us. "Apparently you've been selected." He did not laugh. "You know that doesn't mean anything, right?" The words were quiet, but the urgency behind them was unmistakable. I lowered the flowers. "I know it's a tradition. A stupid tradition." "Okay. I just don't want you getting ideas, because everyone made a big deal out of it." My stomach dropped. "Getting ideas," I repeated. He glanced around as if afraid someone might hear. "You know what I mean. Expectations, pressure. We've talked about this." "No," I said slowly. "You've told me we would get married someday. I didn't invent that." His face changed. For a second, I saw irritation beneath the panic. "Deb, not here." I looked down at the bouquet in my hands. A moment earlier, it had felt playful. Now it felt heavy. "You're right," I said. "Not here." Adam exhaled, clearly relieved. He kissed my temple, then went to get another drink. I watched him walk away and understood, with a clarity I could not explain, that the bouquet had not created a problem. It had exposed one. Chapter 3. For the next hour, I tried to enjoy my best friend's wedding. I danced with Sarah. I took pictures with the bridesmaids. I laughed when Daniel's uncle attempted a line dance and nearly knocked over a chair. I smiled so often that my cheeks began to ache. But my attention kept returning to Adam. He was drinking faster than usual. He avoided being alone with me. Every time someone joked about the bouquet, his body stiffened before he forced a laugh. At one point, Marcus slapped him on the shoulder and said, "Looks like you're on deck." Adam's smile disappeared. "Can everybody drop it?" he snapped. The table went quiet. Marcus raised both hands. "Relax, man, it was a joke." Adam muttered something and walked away. Jenna leaned toward me. "Has he been acting weird lately?" "No," I stared at the condensation running down my glass. "Not until tonight." "Maybe he hates public attention." "He does." That explanation should have comforted me. Instead, it sounded like one more excuse I could add to a collection. I replayed every conversation we had ever had about marriage. Had he actually promised it, or had he only used words vague enough to keep me calm? Had I heard certainty because I needed to hear it? I remembered the time I showed him a small lakeside venue online, and he said, "That's nice." I had taken it as participation. Maybe he had only been looking at the television over my shoulder. I remembered asking whether he wanted children. "Eventually," he said. Eventually, someday, when things settled down. A future made entirely of fog. Around 10:30, Adam told me he was going outside with the guys. "They're smoking," I asked. None of them smoked regularly anymore. Marcus brought cigars. He did not meet my eyes. I nodded as if I did not care. The men headed through a side door that led to a narrow patio behind the venue. Through the windows, I could see their silhouettes beneath the string lights. I tried to stay seated. I told myself that following him would be humiliating. Couples were supposed to trust each other. I had never checked Adam's phone. I had never tracked his location. I had never searched his pockets or questioned every late meeting. I had been proud of that trust. But trust was not supposed to require me to ignore what I could see with my own eyes. His face when I caught the bouquet. His warning not to get ideas. His anger when Marcus joked about us being next. I needed to know whether he was afraid of marriage in general or afraid of marriage to me. That distinction mattered. I put down my glass and told Jenna I needed air. The patio door was near the restrooms, But there was another exit through a service hallway beside the kitchen. I slipped out that way, feeling ridiculous and ashamed. The night air was cool against my bare arms. Music thudded softly through the brick wall. The men were gathered around the corner, close enough that I could hear them but not see them without stepping into the open. I stopped behind a tall stack of folded patio chairs. For a moment, all I heard was Marcus laughing. Then Eric said, "Seriously, Adam, you looked like you were going to throw up when Deb caught that bouquet." My heart began pounding. Chris added, "She noticed, everybody noticed." Adam gave a low, humorless laugh. I felt like I was going to throw up. There was a pause. "Why?" Marcus asked. Adam exhaled slowly. "Because now she's going to think it means something. You know how women get about that stuff." "She didn't make a scene," Eric said. "You did." "I just don't want her building some fantasy around it." Marcus sounded confused. "I thought you two planned to get married." "No," Adam said. One word. Clean, immediate, certain. My fingers tightened around the edge of a metal chair. "No," Chris repeated. Adam laughed again, and that sound would stay with me for a long time. It was not nervous. It was amused, as though the idea itself was absurd. "I'm comfortable with Debra," he said. "I like living with her, but I'm not marrying her. She's not the love of my life." The world did not stop. Music continued inside. A car passed on the street. Somewhere near the dumpsters, a bottle clinked into a bin. But inside me, everything went silent. 6 years disappeared in one sentence. Chapter 4. I should have walked away after that. I had already heard enough. Any one of those sentences should have been enough to end the relationship. But shock does strange things to the body. It held me there, half hidden behind stacked chairs, while the man I loved reduced our life to a convenience. Marcus spoke first. "Then what are you doing?" "What do you mean?" Adam asked. "You've been with her 6 years. You live together." "I'm happy enough." "Happy enough," Eric repeated. Adam sounded impatient now, as if they were failing to understand something obvious. "She pays her share. She takes care of things. We get along most of the time. Why would I blow up a comfortable setup before I have a reason?" The words landed one by one. She pays her share. She takes care of things. A comfortable setup. I thought about the home I had made for us. The meals, the bills, the holiday gifts chosen for his family, the doctor's appointments I reminded him to schedule, the shirts I picked up from the cleaners because his office was farther away. I had done those things because I believed we were partners. To him, they were services included in the arrangement. Chris said quietly, "That's cold, man." Adam scoffed. "Oh, come on, you guys act like you all married for pure love." "I did," Marcus said. "Sure, and Jenna's dad helped you with the down payment on your house." "That had nothing to do with why I married her." Adam continued as if Marcus had not spoken. "Eric's wife is a physician. That's a great income. Lily owns half of Chris's business. You all got something out of the deal." My stomach turned. "So that's what marriage is to you?" Eric asked. "A business decision." "I'm saying if I'm going to legally tie myself to someone, there should be an upside." "And Debra has no upside," Chris said. Adam paused. I could almost picture him shrugging. "She works, she covers her part, she's sweet right now." Right now. Then he said the thing that made something inside me break cleanly instead of bending any further. "But she's 35. In a few years, she's going to start fading. If I marry someone who isn't useful in a bigger way, at least she should be someone I'll enjoy looking at for a long time." The cold air seemed to disappear from my lungs. I pressed my lips together so hard they hurt. I had never considered myself beautiful in a dramatic way. I was attractive enough, I thought. Brown hair, brown eyes, a face that looked like my mother's, faint lines beginning near my eyes when I smiled. Adam used to tell me he loved those lines. Apparently, he had already started counting them against me. Marcus swore under his breath. "Listen to yourself." "I'm being honest." "No," Eric said, "you're being an ass." For one brief second, gratitude rose in me. At least someone said it. But none of them left to find me. None of them said, "Debra deserves to know." None of them told Adam that keeping a woman in a 6-year relationship under false promises was not merely selfish but cruel. They objected to his tone. They did not challenge the fact that I was being deceived. Adam went on. And I want kids eventually. My nails dug into my palms. He and I had discussed children. He knew I wanted them. He knew that at 35, the subject carried urgency for me that it did not carry for him. Every time I tried to move the conversation from someday to a real timeline, he told me not to panic. I'm not ready yet, he said outside. And by the time I am, Debra could be close to 40. What kind of mother is she going to be then? The casual contempt in his voice hurt more than the words themselves. I wanted to step around the corner and slap him. I wanted to scream every truth I had swallowed to keep our life peaceful. I wanted to ask why he had stolen years from me if he believed my age made me unsuitable for the future he had promised. Instead, I stood completely still. My body was trembling, but my mind had become frighteningly clear. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not fear of commitment. This was not a man who loved me but needed more time. Adam knew exactly what he wanted. He wanted my contribution, my loyalty, my labor, my body, and my companionship while reserving the right to replace me when someone younger or more useful appeared. He had not been indecisive. He had been waiting. And he expected me to wait with him, unaware that I was only holding the place open. The men's voices dropped. Someone lit another cigar. I stepped backward before my knees could fail beneath me. The service door felt miles away. When I reached it, my hand shook so badly that I could barely push it open. Inside, the wedding continued in golden light. Sarah was dancing with her father. Guests stood around the floor, smiling through tears. I looked down and realized I was still holding the bouquet. One of the white roses had been crushed beneath my fingers. Chapter 5. I wish I could say I confronted him immediately. There is a version of me I sometimes imagine, the woman who steps around the corner, looks Adam in the eye, and repeats every ugly word loudly enough for the entire wedding to hear. In that version, the music stops. The room turns toward us. Adam is exposed in front of everyone, and I walk out while people cheer. Real pain is rarely that theatrical. Real pain can make you quiet. I went to the restroom, locked myself in the last stall, and sat on the closed toilet with Sarah's bouquet across my lap. My chest felt tight, as if my ribs had been tied together. I tried to breathe slowly, but every breath came in shallow pieces. 6 years. The number kept repeating in my head. 6 Christmas mornings, 6 birthdays, 5 years waking up in the same home, thousands of ordinary nights when I had rested beside him believing I was safe. I thought of the first time he told me he loved me. We had been sitting in his car outside my apartment in the rain. He said it quietly, almost shyly, and I had carried that moment like proof. Was it real then? Had he loved me once and stopped, or had I always been comfortable enough? The question was unbearable, because there was no answer that could return the years to me. Someone entered the restroom. I covered my mouth to silence the sound trying to escape. "Debra," Sarah called. I closed my eyes. She had followed me. Of course she had. Sarah noticed when anyone at her table needed a refill. She was not going to miss her best friend disappearing with a face like mine. "I'm in here," I managed. "Are you sick?" "No." A pause. Did something happen with Adam? I looked at the bouquet. One bent rose leaned away from the others. I could have told her. She would have stopped everything. She would have taken off her wedding shoes and sat on the restroom floor with me. She would have sent Daniel to throw Adam out. But through the door, I could hear the muffled bass of the music and the laughter of people celebrating her marriage. She had planned this day for more than a year. She deserved to remember it as the day she married Daniel, not the night my relationship exploded in the bathroom. "We had a weird moment," I said. "That's all." "Do you want me to come in?" "No, my dress is too tight. I drank too fast and I got overwhelmed." The lie came smoothly. "I'm okay. Go dance with your husband." She did not answer right away. "I love you," she said finally. "I love you too." When she left, I cried silently for exactly 5 minutes. I watched the time on my phone. Then I stood, washed my face with cold water, reapplied concealer beneath my eyes, and returned to the reception. Adam was back at our table. He looked at me and smiled as if nothing had happened. "There you are. I was wondering where you went." The ease of his performance stunned me. "I was in the restroom." "You okay?" "Fine." He reached for my hand. I moved it to pick up my water before he could touch me. For the rest of the night, I studied him with the terrible focus of a stranger. I watched him laugh at Daniel's jokes. I watched him kiss my cheek for a photograph. I watched him place a hand at the small of my back while we said goodbye to Sarah and Daniel. Everything he did was familiar. Nothing felt real. I stayed until the cake was cut. I stayed through the last dance and the sparkler exit. I hugged Sarah carefully so the bouquet would not crush between us. "Call me tomorrow," she whispered. "I will." Adam drove home because I said I had a headache. He complained about the bouquet lying across my knees. "You're not going to keep that thing, are you?" "I don't know. It'll be dead in 3 days." I looked out the window at the dark highway. Some things are dead before anyone notices. He glanced at me. "What does that mean?" "Nothing, I'm tired." At home, he undressed and climbed into bed. I took a long shower because I could not bear the thought of him touching me. When I came out, he was already asleep, one arm stretched across my side of the mattress. I stood in the doorway and looked at him. I had once believed that sleeping beside someone was the deepest form of intimacy. That night, I understood that physical closeness could hide an enormous distance. I carried a blanket to the guest room and lay awake until dawn. I did not make a dramatic plan. I made a list. Lease. Bank account. Utilities. Mail. Clothes. Documents. Medication. Laptop. The practical details steadied me. Every item was a small bridge leading out of the life where I had been tolerated instead of loved. At 6:30, I heard Adam moving in the bedroom. He found me in the kitchen drinking coffee. "You slept in the guest room." "I couldn't sleep." He opened the refrigerator. "You still mad about the bouquet?" I looked at his back. He thought that was the problem. He thought I was upset because he had not played along with a wedding joke. He had no idea I had heard him describe me as a declining asset. "No," I said, "I'm not mad about the bouquet." He shrugged. "Good, I have an early meeting." He kissed the top of my head on his way out. I waited until his car disappeared at the end of the street. Then I stood in the center of our kitchen, surrounded by the life I had built, and said out loud, "I'm leaving." My voice shook, but the decision did not. Chapter 6. The first call I made was to our landlord. Mr. Alvarez had rented the townhouse to us for 5 years. He was kind, practical, and more interested in receiving rent on time than in our personal lives. Both our names were on the lease, which had shifted to month the previous spring. I told him Adam and I were separating. "I'm sorry," he said. "What do you need?" I asked whether I could remove myself from the lease at the end of the month if Adam agreed to qualify a loan. Mr. Alvarez explained the paperwork and said he could email it that morning. The next call was to a furnished apartment complex across town that my coworker had used during a renovation. They had a small 1-bedroom available for 6 weeks. I took it without seeing it. Then I called a moving company. "Today?" the woman asked. "Yes." "We can send 2 people at one." "Yes." Every yes carried me farther away. I transferred my portion of the remaining household money into my personal account, leaving enough to cover the current month's shared bills. Then I removed the automatic deposit scheduled for the first of the next month. I did not take Adam's money. I did not empty the account. I wanted no argument about theft, revenge, or punishment. I wanted only what was mine. I walked through the townhouse with rolls of tape and boxes left over from our last move. The question of what belonged to me was more painful than I expected. The blue ceramic bowls were mine. My sister had given them to me. The coffee maker was his, purchased before we met. The dining table was ours, but I left it. I took half the towels, my books, my clothes, the small desk from the guest room, and the framed photograph of my grandmother that had always stood on the mantel. I left every picture of Adam and me in a drawer. There were dozens. Us at the lake, us in Chicago, us dressed as a detective and a jewel thief at a Halloween party, us on the day we moved in, sitting on the living room floor eating pizza because the couch had not arrived. In those photographs, I was smiling at a future that did not exist. I sat on the floor and cried until the movers knocked. The two men worked quickly. They did not ask questions. By 3:30, most of my life fit into the back of a truck. I left the bride's bouquet on the kitchen counter. For a while, I considered taking it with me. It had revealed the truth. It had saved me from more years of waiting. But it also belonged to the night my old life ended, and I did not want it in the new one. I wrote Adam a note, then tore it up. I wrote another and tore that one too. Finally, I sent a text because I wanted a record of exactly what I said. I heard your conversation outside last night. I heard all of it. I know you never intended to marry me. I know how you describe me when I am not there. I have moved out. My name will be removed from the lease and our household account. I left my share of this month's expenses. Do not come to my temporary apartment. I wish you luck building the life you actually want. My thumb hovered over the screen. Part of me waited for the woman I had been that morning to stop me. The loyal one. The patient one. The woman who believed every relationship deserved one more conversation. But there are conversations that clarify a misunderstanding, and there are conversations that give a liar more time to rearrange the truth. I pressed send. Then I blocked his number for 1 hour. Not forever, not yet, but long enough to reach the apartment without hearing his voice. The furnished place was on the 3rd floor of a plain building near a shopping center. Beige carpet, gray couch, white walls without a single nail hole. It smelled faintly of lemon cleaner. When the movers left, silence filled every room. I stood among the boxes and felt the first wave of terror. What had I done? I was 35 years old, newly single, living out of cardboard boxes in an apartment chosen over the phone. The man I had planned my adulthood around was gone, not because he had died or left, but because I had finally listened to what he said when he thought I could not hear him. My phone lit up with notifications the moment I unblocked him. 17 missed calls. 9 text messages. Debs, call me. You misunderstood. Where are you? We need to talk like adults. This is insane. I never said I don't love you. Please answer. You can't just leave after 6 years. The last message came while I was reading. At least tell me where you are. I stared at it. He was right about one thing. 6 years deserved something. They deserved the truth. So I called him. Chapter 7. Adam answered before the first ring finished. Where are you? No hello, no apology. I'm safe. What does that mean? I came home and half the house is gone. My half. You took the desk. The desk was mine before we moved in. That's not the point, Debra. I sat on the gray couch, still wearing the dress I had packed in that morning. My feet were bare. A cardboard box marked bathroom stood in the middle of the living room. What is the point, Adam? The point is that you vanished. You made decisions about the lease and the bank account without talking to me. I left enough money for this month. I notified the landlord. You can keep the townhouse if you qualify on your own. You know I can qualify. Then there's no problem. There is a huge problem. You are acting like a crazy person because you overheard part of a private conversation. The word crazy did something useful. It burned through the numbness. I heard the whole conversation. You heard guys talking. I heard you talking. He exhaled sharply. It was stupid. I'd been drinking. They were giving me a hard time about marriage, and I said things to get them off my back. You told them I wasn't the love of your life. I was being dramatic. You said I was a comfortable setup. I didn't mean it like that. You said your friends married useful women, and that I offered nothing beyond paying my share. Deb, you said I was 35 and would start fading. You said you wanted someone you would enjoy looking at for a long time. Silence. You said I would be too old to be a good mother by the time you were ready for children. His voice changed. The anger softened into caution. I was drunk. You remember saying it. I remember pieces. You remember enough to explain every piece. He was quiet again. Then came the voice I knew best, the warm, reasonable tone he used when he wanted me to question my own reaction. Debra, listen to me. I love you. I have loved you for years. Marriage scares me, okay? The bouquet thing made me feel cornered and I panicked. I said ugly things because the guys were pushing me. They weren't pushing you when you compared me to their wives' salaries. I was talking nonsense. You were specific. I said I was comfortable with you because I am comfortable with you. That isn't an insult. We have a good life. A laugh escaped me. It sounded broken. We had a good life because I thought we were building it together. You thought you were using it until something better came along. That is not what I said. It is exactly what you said. I never cheated on you. The defense arrived so quickly that I wondered whether he had rehearsed it. I didn't say you did. I stayed faithful for 6 years. Doesn't that count for anything? The question stunned me. Faithfulness was not a gift he had given me. It was the minimum condition of the relationship he had freely entered. You want credit for not cheating, while you secretly planned never to choose me. I didn't secretly plan anything. I don't know what I'll want in 5 years. But you knew what you didn't want. You didn't want me as your wife. You just forgot to tell me. His breathing grew heavier. So that's it. You throw away 6 years over one conversation. No, I said. The conversation told me what the 6 years were. He started to protest, but I continued. You knew I wanted marriage. You knew I wanted the chance to have children. You watched me grow more anxious about time, and you kept telling me someday. You let me make choices based on a future you did not intend to share. I might have changed my mind. There it was. Not I was going to marry you. Not you are the person I want. I might have changed my mind. He had expected me to gamble more years on the possibility that I might become valuable enough. I'm done, I said. Don't say that. I'm done. Where are you? I'm not telling you. I need to see you. No, you need to learn that access to me was part of the life you chose not to value. His voice cracked then, whether from fear, anger, or genuine pain, I could not tell. Deb, please, come home. For one dangerous second, the word home reached inside me. I saw our kitchen in morning light. I saw the couch, the rosemary in the window, his shoes near the door. I felt the familiar gravity of the place pulling me back. Then I pictured him outside the wedding, laughing. She's sweet right now. I closed my eyes. I don't have a home with you anymore. I ended the call and blocked him again. Then I curled on the unfamiliar couch and cried until the room went dark. Leaving was the strongest thing I had ever done. It did not feel strong. It felt like being torn in half and choosing which half would survive. Chapter 8. The first week was a blur of paperwork and pain. I went to work because sitting alone in the apartment felt worse. I arrived early, answered emails, updated budgets, and smiled at coworkers who had no idea my life had changed overnight. In the restroom, I sometimes stared at my reflection and heard Adam's voice. 35. Fading. What kind of mother would she be? Before the wedding, I had liked my face. Not every day, not from every angle, but enough. Afterward, I began examining it as if it were evidence against me. The small line between my eyebrows, the softness under my chin when I looked down, a silver hair near my temple that I had never noticed before. Betrayal does not only make you question another person, it can turn you against yourself. I knew Adam's opinions were cruel. I knew women did not expire at 35. I knew my value was not measured by whether a man found me youthful enough to decorate his future. Knowing was not the same as feeling. At night, I lay awake and calculated time. If I met someone in a year, dated for 2 years, married after another year, would children still be possible? What if I never met anyone? Had Adam used the exact years I needed most? The grief was not only for him. It was for the version of my future that had vanished with him. Sarah came over the day after she returned from her honeymoon. She carried groceries, 2 bottles of wine, and enough anger for both of us. You should have told me at the wedding, she said after I finished the story. You were getting married. I would have thrown him out. I know. I would have thrown all 4 of them out. I looked at her. Daniel wasn't outside. Good for Daniel. He can stay married. I laughed for the first time in days, then immediately started crying. Sarah moved beside me on the couch and wrapped both arms around me. I feel so stupid, I whispered. No. I believed him for 6 years. That makes him dishonest. It does not make you stupid. I kept defending him. Every time anyone asked about marriage, I explained why he needed more time. You loved him. I arranged my entire life around someone who thought I was convenient. Sarah pulled back and looked directly at me. You built a life because you believed you were building it with a partner. That is what healthy people do when they are told they are loved. You are not responsible for the fact that he accepted your devotion under false pretenses. The phrase false pretenses stayed with me. I had been treating my heartbreak like proof that I had failed to make myself worthy. Sarah named it correctly. Adam had taken what I offered while withholding the information I needed to make an informed choice. Over the next few days, Jenna, Maya, and Lily called. Their voices carried a mix of outrage and guilt. Their husbands had told them what happened outside. Not immediately. That detail mattered. The men had gone home after the wedding and slept beside their wives without mentioning that their friend had admitted deceiving me. They spoke only after Adam called them, furious that I had left and demanding to know which one of them had told me. When they realized I had overheard everything myself, the story came out. Jenna was furious with Marcus. He said he didn't know what to do in the moment, she told me. I asked him whether he would want someone to tell me if I was being used. He didn't have an answer. Maya said Eric had spent 2 days insisting that he had challenged Adam. He called him an ass, she said. Apparently he thinks that counts as protecting you. Lily was quieter. Chris is ashamed. They all should be, I said. Then I felt guilty for saying it. That was another habit I had to break, protecting men from the consequences of accurate descriptions. The wives invited me to dinner that Friday. I almost refused. Our group belonged to the life I shared with Adam. Seeing them without him felt like stepping into a photograph after someone had been cut out. But the temporary apartment was becoming unbearable, so I went. We met at a small Italian restaurant Sarah loved. The women had chosen a table near the back. No husbands, no awkward apologies, just pasta, wine, and the kind of friendship that does not require you to be entertaining while your heart is broken. At one point, Jenna raised her glass. To Debra, she said, for leaving the first time the truth was clear. I looked down, embarrassed. I don't feel brave. Most brave people don't, Maya said. They feel terrified and do it anyway. We drank to that. For a few hours, I remembered that I existed outside Adam's opinion of me. I was a friend Sarah had trusted beside her on her wedding day. I was the person Jenna called when her father had surgery. I was the woman who had helped Maya prepare for a difficult job interview and stayed with Lily through a miscarriage 2 years earlier. My life had meaning in rooms where Adam was not present. That realization was small. It was also the beginning of everything. Chapter 9. The breakup moved through our friend group like a crack through glass. At first, the men tried to treat it as a private problem between Adam and me. Marcus told Jenna that Adam had said something stupid while drinking. Eric told Maya that relationships were complicated. Chris told Lily he did not want to betray a friend's confidence. Their wives asked better questions. How long had Adam known he did not want to marry me? Why had none of them warned me after hearing him say it? At what point did loyalty to a friend become participation in that friend's dishonesty? I did not demand that anyone end a friendship with Adam. I was too exhausted to manage other people's moral decisions. I only said that I would not attend gatherings where he was present. I'm not asking you to choose, I told Sarah. You don't have to, she replied. I already did. Daniel agreed. He had not known what was said outside, but after hearing it, he told Adam he was no longer welcome at their home. Marcus, Eric, and Chris were slower. They had years of history with him: bachelor trips, fantasy football, college stories, funerals, and bad apartments in their 20s. They did not excuse what he had done, but they struggled to understand how one revelation could reorganize an entire friendship. I understood that more than they knew. One revelation had reorganized my entire life. 2 weeks after I left, Marcus called me. "I owe you an apology," he said. I stood in the temporary apartment kitchen, holding a carton of eggs. "Yes," I said. The directness surprised both of us. He cleared his throat. "I should have come inside and told you." "Yes." I told myself it wasn't my place. It became your place when he said it in front of you and expected your silence. I know that now. I placed the eggs on the counter. "Would you have told me the next day?" He did not answer immediately. "I don't know," he admitted. That honesty hurt, but it also mattered. "Thank you for not lying about it. I was a coward. You were loyal to the person who was hurting me because his friendship was older." "That's true." I waited for the usual defense, the explanation that men did not get involved, that it had been awkward, that Adam was drunk. It never came. "I'm sorry," Marcus said. "Not because Jenna is angry with me, not because the group is a mess. I'm sorry because you were my friend too, and I acted like you were." That was the first apology I accepted. Not fully. Acceptance did not erase the fact that he had stood outside while Adam discussed my life as if I were not human, but it allowed me to stop carrying the conversation alone. Eric apologized next. Chris sent a long message and asked whether I wanted him to call. I said no, I was not ready. Meanwhile, Adam began contacting everyone. He told them I had overreacted. He said I had invaded his privacy. He claimed he had been venting about pressure and that the men had misunderstood him. When none of that worked, he said I was turning their wives against him. The strange part was that I had barely spoken about him. I told my friends what happened because it happened to me. I did not need to campaign against Adam. His own words did the work. He tried reaching me through email after I blocked his number. "I am sorry for hurting you." That was the subject line. The message itself was 3 pages of explanations. He had felt embarrassed by the Bouquet chant. He had always disliked public pressure. The guys were making jokes. He had too much whiskey. He was stressed about work. He did love me, though perhaps he had complex feelings about legal marriage. He thought we could work through it if I stopped treating one bad conversation as a complete definition of him. At the end, he wrote, "You know me better than anyone. You know I'm not the person you heard outside." I read that sentence several times. Then I understood why it bothered me. I did know him better than anyone, or I knew the version of himself he had chosen to show me. Outside the venue, surrounded by men whose approval he wanted, he had shown another version. Which one was real? Both. The man who brought me coffee when my car broke down was real. So was the man who quietly decided my age made me a poor investment. People do not become harmless because they also have good qualities. I did not answer the email. That night, I deleted the folder where I had saved wedding venues, ring styles, and articles about planning a small ceremony on a budget. I cried while I did it. Then I emptied the trash. Chapter 10. Adam had always been the center of our social circle, without appearing to demand it. He chose the sports bar for Sunday games. He organized the annual cabin weekend. He started group chats, made dinner reservations, and knew exactly how to turn an ordinary Friday into a plan everyone wanted to join. I had believed that energy was generosity. After we separated, I began to see how much of it had depended on other people doing the invisible work around him. I remembered birthdays and ordered cakes. Jenna coordinated the cabin groceries. Maya collected money. Lily brought extra blankets because Adam always underestimated how cold the lake would be. The men praised him for putting everything together, while the women quietly made sure it actually happened. Without us, his talent for creating a good time looked less impressive. The first major gathering after the breakup was a backyard cookout at Sarah and Daniel's house. I almost did not go. Adam had attended every summer party for years. His absence would be visible, and I worried that everyone would feel forced to perform around me. Sarah refused to let me hide. "You are not the one who should lose your friends," she said. So I went. Marcus and Jenna arrived with their 2 children. Eric and Maya brought corn and a huge bowl of salad. Chris and Lily came later, carrying folding chairs. The men were careful with me at first. Too careful. Marcus offered me a drink 3 times. Eric asked whether I needed help carrying a plate that held 1 hamburger. Chris avoided being alone with me. Eventually, the awkwardness became ridiculous. "You can all stop looking guilty," I said. They froze. "I'm not saying everything is fine. It is. But I'm also not going to spend every gathering watching 3 grown men silently apologize with potato salad." Maya laughed so hard, she nearly spilled her drink. The tension broke. Later, Marcus told me Adam had expected the group to invite him instead of me. "He said he's known us longer," Marcus explained. And Jenna asked whether friendship was awarded by seniority. I smiled despite myself. Adam had assumed the group was his because the men had been his friends first. He did not understand that over 6 years, the wives had become my friends too. He did not understand that relationships grow sideways. He believed every connection in my life passed through him. When the invitations continued without him, he became angry. He told Marcus I had poisoned everyone. He told Eric the women were using the breakup to control their husbands. He accused Chris of choosing Lily's side to avoid conflict at home. The men still met him occasionally for lunch, but the old ease was gone. His words outside the wedding had not only revealed what he thought of me, they had revealed what he thought of their marriages. Marcus could not forget that Adam had treated Jenna's father's help with their house as the reason she was worth marrying. Eric could not ignore that Adam had reduced Maya's medical career to a financial benefit. Chris was furious that Adam described Lily's ownership in their company as though her marriage were an acquisition. He had insulted every woman in the group, but he had expected the men to recognize his logic. That was the part they could not forgive. One evening, about a month after I left, Sarah and I went to a wine bar near her office. As we were leaving, we saw Adam across the street. He was alone at an outdoor table, staring at his phone. My first reaction was physical. My pulse jumped, my feet stopped. He looked familiar enough to break my heart all over again. Same dark jacket, same way of leaning back in a chair, same hand rubbing the edge of his jaw when he was frustrated. Sarah touched my arm. "Do you want to go another way?" I almost said yes. Then Adam looked up and saw us. For a second, hope flashed across his face. He stood quickly. "Debra." I did not cross the street. He stepped toward the curb, but traffic passed between us. "Can we talk?" he called. People turned. I felt the old reflex to protect him from embarrassment. I wanted to walk over, lower my voice, make the situation easier. Then I remembered how much of our relationship had been built on making things easier for Adam. "No," I said. The light changed. Sarah and I crossed at the next corner without approaching him. My legs shook for 2 blocks. But I kept walking. That night, I realized something I had not expected. Adam's loneliness did not make me feel victorious. It made me sad. I had loved him. Some part of me probably always would love the person I believed he had been. Watching him lose friends and routines did not repair what he destroyed. But sadness was not a reason to return. Compassion did not require access. I could hope he became a better man from a distance, where he could no longer use me as the cost of his comfort. Chapter 11. 6 weeks after I left, I moved into a permanent apartment. It was smaller than the townhouse and farther from work, but it had tall windows, hardwood floors, and a narrow balcony that caught the morning sun. The kitchen was outdated. The bedroom closet door stuck. The upstairs neighbor walked like he was wearing bowling shoes. I loved it. For the first time in my adult life, every object in my home existed because I had chosen it. I bought a green couch even though Adam had once said green furniture looked cheap. I hung a large print above the dining table without asking whether it was too much. I filled the balcony with herbs and flowers. I placed my grandmother's photograph on a shelf where the light touched it in the afternoon. The apartment was not proof that I had recovered. It was proof that I had somewhere safe to recover. Healing did not arrive as one inspiring decision. It came in small, often unremarkable acts. I changed the emergency contact on my medical forms. I learned how to reset the garbage disposal myself. I went to a movie alone, and discovered that no one cared. I stopped checking whether Adam had emailed. I started therapy with a woman named Dr. Patel, who had a calm voice and an office full of plants. During our first session, I told her I wanted help getting over a breakup. By the third, I understood that I was also grieving the way I had abandoned my own questions for years. I knew I was unhappy with the uncertainty, I said. I just kept telling myself I was being patient. What did you think would happen if you insisted on a clear answer? She asked. He might leave. And what happened when you avoided the answer? I stayed in a relationship that wasn't real in the way I thought it was. Dr. Patel nodded. Sometimes we call fear patience because patience sounds like love. That sentence hurt. It also freed me. I began to understand that my strength was not only the ability to leave after hearing Adam's words. It was learning to trust my discomfort before someone handed me undeniable proof. At work, my director asked whether I would apply for a newly created program manager position. I almost said no. The role involved supervising 2 people, presenting to donors, and making decisions I had always assumed someone more confident should make. Then I heard Adam's voice in my memory. She pays her share. As if my work were a modest feature in a household appliance. I submitted the application. During the interview, I talked about the systems I had designed, the crises I had handled, and the partnerships I had built. I did not minimize myself to seem easy. I did not apologize for ambition. I got the job. The salary increase was not dramatic, but the title mattered to me. Not because it made me more useful as a potential wife, but because it reflected abilities I had spent years treating as ordinary. Sarah took me to dinner to celebrate. To your empire, she said, raising her glass. My empire has 2 employees and a copier that jams. Every empire starts somewhere. I laughed. There were still bad days. Sometimes I missed Adam so suddenly that grief felt like a physical blow. A song in a grocery store, a brand of coffee, a couple arguing softly in the parking lot, the smell of his shampoo on a man passing me in an elevator. Once, while unpacking a box I had avoided, I found an old birthday card from him. I love every life we haven't lived yet, he had written. I sat on the floor and cried until my eyes swelled. The card might have been sincere when he wrote it. Or perhaps he loved imagined futures because they required nothing from him in the present. I did not need to decide. I threw it away. As my 36th birthday approached, fear about children returned. I made an appointment with my doctor, asked honest questions about fertility, and learned what options existed. I did not make an immediate decision. I simply replaced Adam's vague timeline with accurate information about my own body. For years, I had waited for him to be ready before allowing myself to plan. Now the future belonged to me again. That did not mean I knew what it would look like. It meant I had the right to choose it. Chapter 12. Adam appeared at my office on a Tuesday afternoon. The receptionist called my desk and said, "There's a man here asking for you. He says it's personal." My stomach tightened before she said his name. I walked to the lobby because I did not want him coming farther into the building. He stood near the front windows holding a small paper bag from the bakery I loved. He had lost weight. His hair was longer than usual, and there were shadows beneath his eyes. For a moment, seeing him hurt with the full force of the first week. Then he smiled. "Hi. You can't come to my workplace." "I know, I'm sorry. You wouldn't answer my emails." That was an answer. His smile disappeared. "I brought you the lemon cookies." He lifted the bag. "I know you like them." I did not take it. "What do you want?" 10 minutes. "No. Debra, please. I'm not asking you to come home today. I just want to explain." "You have explained." "Not well." He glanced toward the receptionist, lowered his voice, and said, "Can we go outside?" I should have asked security to remove him. Instead, I followed him to a bench near the building entrance. Some part of me wanted to see whether he had finally found a sentence that could change the meaning of what I heard. He sat forward, elbows on his knees. "I started therapy," he said. I waited. "I know that doesn't fix anything. I know I treated you horribly." It was the first time he had said it, without immediately adding a reason. I was selfish, he continued. I kept telling myself I wasn't lying because I didn't know for sure what I would want later, but I knew what you wanted, and I let you believe we were moving toward it. My eyes burned. Why? He looked at the ground. Because I didn't want to lose you. You didn't want to choose me either. No, his voice was barely audible. I thought I had time. Time for what? To figure it out, to become ready, to see if. He stopped. To see if someone better came along, I finished. He closed his eyes. The silence answered. My grief sharpened, but it no longer surprised me. I was always comparing, he said. I compared our life to everyone else's. Their houses, their wives, their money. I convinced myself marriage had to give me something I didn't already have. And I gave you everything I had. I know. No, Adam, you know now because it's gone. Knowing after you lose the benefit is not the same as valuing the person who provided it. He reached into his coat pocket. The small, velvet box appeared before my mind could prepare for it. My entire body went cold. I bought this 3 weeks ago, he said. I stared at the box. For years, I had imagined that object in his hand. I had pictured candlelight, a weekend trip, our kitchen, the lake where we spent our first anniversary. I had wondered whether I would cry, whether he would kneel, whether my hands would shake. My hands were shaking now. But not from joy. He opened the box. The ring was simple and beautiful, a round diamond on a thin gold band, exactly the style I once showed him. I remember, he said quickly. I remember what you liked. A tear slid down my face. His expression filled with hope. Deb, I know I don't deserve. Put it away. He froze. Please put it away. This isn't a trick. I'm ready. No, you're afraid. I love you. You loved having me. That's not fair. It is the fairest thing I have ever said to you. He stood, the open ring box between us. What do you want me to do? I'm admitting everything. I'm getting help. I bought the ring. I am trying to give you what you wanted. The old me might have heard devotion in that list. The woman, I was becoming heard transaction. Therapy, confession, ring, proposal, result. He believed that if he completed the correct steps, I should restore his life. I wanted to be chosen before losing me became uncomfortable, I said. I wanted you to see a future with me when I was standing beside you, not after you came home to an empty house. His face crumpled. We could still have that future. No, we could have a future built on me knowing that you once waited for a younger or more useful woman, and that you proposed only after your friends stopped inviting you places. That isn't why. It may not be the only reason, but I will never again be able to separate your love from your fear of being alone. He looked down at the ring. For years, I thought receiving it would prove I was worthy. Walking away from it proved I finally understood that I never needed proof. I stood. Do not come to my office again. Debra, I hope therapy helps you. I mean that, but I will not be the reward for your improvement. I went back inside without the cookies and without the ring. In the elevator, I cried so hard I had to cover my mouth. When the doors opened, I wiped my face and returned to work. Strength did not mean the proposal did not hurt. Strength meant pain no longer made the decision for me. Chapter 13. By late fall, the friend group had found a new shape. Not the old shape without Adam, something different. The men stopped acting as though every gathering required a discussion about loyalty. The women stopped checking my face whenever someone mentioned marriage. We learned how to spend time together without turning my breakup into the center of the room. On a Saturday in November, we went to a downtown club to celebrate Maya finishing a brutal hospital rotation. None of us went clubbing often anymore. We were mostly people who complained when restaurants became too loud after 9:30. But Maya wanted music, dancing, and one irresponsible night, so we agreed. I wore a black dress I had bought for myself after the promotion. It fit closely at the waist and fell above my knees. Before leaving the apartment, I stood in front of the mirror and looked at my body without searching for evidence of decline. I saw a woman with soft arms, strong legs, and lines near her eyes because she had spent years laughing. I saw 36 approaching. I saw life not fading. At the club, Sarah pulled me onto the dance floor before I finished my first drink. Jenna danced badly and proudly. Marcus attempted to join us until Jenna ordered him to stop embarrassing their family. For several hours, I felt light. Then Lily leaned close and shouted over the music, "Don't turn around too fast." My body knew, before my mind did. "Is he here?" She nodded. Adam stood near the far end of the bar with two men I did not recognize. He had not seen us. He was wearing a fitted shirt and the expression he used when he wanted to appear relaxed. I could have left. Everyone would have understood. Instead, I took a slow breath. "This is a public place," I said. "He can be here." The group tried not to watch him and failed completely. A few minutes later, Adam approached two young women near the dance floor. They looked to be in their mid-20s. One had long blonde hair, the other wore a silver top that caught the lights. He smiled, said something, and gestured toward the bar. The blonde woman shook her head. Adam continued talking. The second woman looked at her friend, then said something that made both of them laugh, not cruelly but clearly at his expense. They turned away. Adam's face reddened. Marcus choked on his drink. "I shouldn't laugh," he said while laughing. Sarah did not even pretend. She bent forward, one hand on my shoulder. The absurdity hit me all at once. This was the man who believed he could keep me waiting until he found someone younger who would please his eye. He had imagined himself moving effortlessly from our 6-year relationship into a market full of grateful 25-year-olds. Now he was standing alone beside a speaker, rejected before he had finished his sales pitch. I started laughing. Not because two women had rejected him, not because he was lonely. I laughed because the grand future he had used to diminish me looked painfully ordinary under fluorescent bar lights. Adam turned at the sound. He saw us. His eyes moved across the group, Marcus, Eric, Chris, their wives, Sarah, Daniel, and stopped on me. The embarrassment on his face was immediate. For a moment, no one moved. Then he walked toward us. The laughter faded. "Having fun?" he asked. His voice was controlled, but anger tightened every word. Maya answered first. "It's my celebration." "I wasn't talking to you." Eric stepped forward. "Then maybe don't come over." Adam looked at him. "You all think this is funny." No one answered. He turned to me. "Do you?" Months earlier, I would have tried to soften the moment. I would have said we were laughing at something else. I would have protected his pride because I once mistook that labor for kindness. I met his eyes. "Yes," I said. His jaw tightened. "You've really enjoyed turning everyone against me." "I didn't turn anyone against you. You made sure they heard every detail. They heard the details from the men you said them to. You were spying. I was looking for the truth. I found it." He glanced around at our friends. "And now, you all sit here judging me like none of you have ever said something bad about your partners." Marcus shook his head. "This isn't about one bad comment." It was one conversation. "It was a plan," I said. Adam looked back at me. "You planned to keep me until you wanted something else. You planned to let me wait for marriage and children while you evaluated whether I was useful enough. That is not the same as complaining that someone leaves dishes in the sink." His face shifted. For a second, anger gave way to shame. I apologized. "I know. I proposed." Sarah inhaled sharply. The others looked at me. I had not told everyone about the ring. "And I said no," I replied. Adam stared at me as if I had publicly exposed something sacred. "You didn't tell them that part, did you?" "No, because your proposal was not a group event. You just made it one." He looked around again and seemed to realize there was nowhere for him to stand. The men who once laughed at his jokes were watching him with disappointment. Their wives were watching him without fear. I was standing in front of him without begging to be understood. He gave a bitter smile. "So this is your revenge?" I thought about it. "No," I said. "My revenge would require me to organize my life around hurting you. I'm not doing that anymore. This is just my life, continuing without you." He flinched. That was the moment I knew I was free. Not when I left the townhouse. Not when I blocked his number. Not even when I refused the ring. I was free because I no longer needed Adam to agree that he had wronged me. I did not need him to suffer the correct amount. I did not need to win the breakup. I needed only to stop abandoning myself. Adam turned and walked away. No one followed him. The music rose again. Maya lifted her glass and shouted that the night was supposed to be about her. We laughed, and this time the laughter had nothing to do with Adam. Chapter 14. My 36th birthday arrived on a cold, bright Sunday. For years, I had treated birthdays after 30 as warnings. Not because I believed women became less valuable, but because I had tied my hopes for marriage and motherhood to a man who refused to give me a timeline. Every year felt like another door quietly closing while he told me not to worry. This birthday felt different. I woke alone in my green coushed apartment, made coffee, and stepped onto the balcony wearing a robe and winter boots. Frost covered the empty flower pots. The city sounded distant in the morning air. I thought I might feel grief. Instead, I felt space. Not emptiness, space. The day belonged to me before anyone else entered it. My friends organized brunch at Sarah and Daniel's house. There were balloons, cinnamon rolls, and a cake decorated so badly that Daniel blamed the bakery even though we all knew he had written the icing himself. Marcus and Jenna gave me a set of tools for the apartment. "Because you keep borrowing mine," Marcus said. "Because yours are better. Now yours are better." Eric and Maya gave me a gift certificate for a weekend at a small inn near Lake Erie. Lily gave me a journal. Sarah handed me a long rectangular box. Inside was a pressed white rose in a simple glass frame. I looked at her. "It's from my bouquet," she said. "Not the one you left at the townhouse. I saved a few flowers from the arrangement on our table." My throat tightened. "I thought you might want a different memory attached to it." I touched the edge of the frame. "What memory?" "That catching flowers didn't mean you were next to get married. It meant you were next to tell the truth about your life." I cried then, but the tears did not feel like collapse. They felt like release. After brunch, the husbands cleaned the kitchen while the women sat in the living room. At one point, Jenna asked whether I thought I would date again. "Yes," I said. The answer surprised me with its certainty. "Soon?" Maya asked. "I don't know." I had gone on 2 dates with a man from another department at work. He was kind, recently divorced, and nervous enough to knock over his water at dinner. There had been no fireworks. I considered that a good thing. Fireworks had become less impressive to me than consistency. I did not know whether I would see him again. For the first time, not knowing did not frighten me. I had learned the difference between uncertainty, that belongs to life, and uncertainty, another person uses to keep you powerless. Life could not promise me marriage or children. No relationship could guarantee that I would never be betrayed again. Strength was not the ability to control every outcome. It was the belief that I would listen to myself, ask clear questions, and leave any table where love required me to disappear. That spring, I used the gift certificate and went to the lake alone. The inn was quiet, with white porches facing the water. I spent the first afternoon reading by a window. The next morning, I walked along the shore while wind pushed my hair across my face. I thought about the woman I had been at Sarah's wedding. She stood with a bouquet in her hands, watching Adam panic, and she knew something was wrong before she knew what it was. I used to feel ashamed that I had ignored that instinct for so long. Now I felt tenderness for her. She had done the best she could with the truth she had, and when the truth became undeniable, she did not negotiate herself back into the lie. I stopped near the water and picked up a smooth gray stone. I held it in my palm, then threw it as far as I could. It struck the lake and disappeared without ceremony. Some endings are like that. No dramatic music, no final speech, no perfect justice. Only the moment you release what you can no longer carry. Epilogue. A year after Sarah's wedding, I passed a flower shop on my way home from work. Buckets of tulips stood outside beneath a striped awning, yellow, pink, white, and deep purple. I stopped because they were beautiful. That was all. There was no wedding, no anniversary, no man waiting at home, no tradition telling me what the flowers were supposed to predict. I went inside, and chose a large bunch of pale pink tulips. At my apartment, I trimmed the stems and placed them in a glass pitcher on the dining table. Afternoon light moved across the petals. For a moment, I remembered the bouquet that had landed in my arms. I had thought it was a promise. Adam thought it was a threat. In the end, it was neither. It was a mirror. It showed me the fear on his face. It led me to the conversation I needed to hear. It forced me to look at the difference between the life I had and the life I had been told I was building. People sometimes asked whether I regretted the 6 years. I regretted the deception. I regretted the time Adam knowingly allowed me to invest in a future he did not want. I regretted every moment I silenced my own needs because I was afraid that asking for certainty would make me difficult to love. But I did not regret loving sincerely. His dishonesty did not make my loyalty foolish. His contempt did not make my care worthless. The fact that he failed to honor what I gave did not mean I had been wrong to give it. What I regretted was giving it, without also giving loyalty to myself. That was the part I changed. I no longer accepted someday as an answer when the question shaped my life. I no longer treated discomfort as proof that I was demanding too much. I no longer confused being needed with being valued. And I no longer believed age was a countdown toward invisibility. At 36, I was more visible to myself than I had ever been. I knew what I wanted. I knew what I could survive. I knew that being alone was not the worst thing that could happen to a woman. The worst thing was disappearing beside someone who benefited from her presence but never truly saw her. I carried the pitcher to the window and opened the curtains wider. The tulips leaned toward the light. So did I. The bouquet at Sarah's wedding did not tell me I would be the next bride. It told me I was the next woman who needed to choose herself. And this time I did.